decided to make a video out of frustration on why I hate role-playing and Fantasy Grounds. Yes, Fantasy Grounds is currently by far the best VTT option out there. The list of reasons are the following: automated combat tracker, enhanced rules automation, rollable tables, story templates, offline campaign development, chat in any fantasy language, use any image file as a map, a handout, or a token, map layers, fog of war, dynamic lighting, host free players, party management system, party inventory and experience points and quest management systems, campaign and calendar management system, DM's guild support and module support, official rule set and book support. Yeah, Fantasy Grounds is the shining star here, but have you tried role-playing in Fantasy Grounds with a standard character sheet? Not only is the weapons tab unintuitive, but there's no obvious quick graphical reference to roll to hit or to damage. You need not only know which menu items to click on and drag on, but which line item to use from round to round. Let me show you an example character, so I can show you how to configure the desktop to be able to play better from a player's point of view. So we got Blob. He's a half-orc cleric. As you can see from the character sheet, I'm going to drag him to the left where he normally should be in the game. Let's switch to the combat tab. On the combat tab at the top, there's an initiative field, and you would drag that normally down to the chat field to roll initiative for your round. Or you can double click on it to roll initiative. And as if you've seen any other videos on how to use Fantasy Grounds, it's typical common advice to drag it down to your hotbar key down below so you can tie it to one of your F keys. That way you don't have to hunt and peck for when it comes to your round to roll initiative. Below on the combat tab is a list of all your weapons or spell effects that you would have to cast during combat. During your turn, you have to choose what weapon to use when performing an attack and then damage. And usually there's a big list of weapons here to choose from. And as you can see graphically, the layout is no intuitive way to figure out where to double click or drag to hit or for damage. Now, I agree that to hit field is a gold box. And so that's quite graphically, you notice that that is a place to double click on to roll your attack. But the damage field doesn't have an intuitive graphical marker to show where to roll for damage. And it's this white field here that with the +1 in it. This column right here is for your damage. Not only is it difficult to quickly zero in on your attack roll and your damage roll, especially if you have a lot of weapons, but some of these weapons have 2 or even 3 different versions of it, depending on whether or not it's melee range, or it's a thrown weapon, or a missile weapon. Or sometimes you'll have even more for dual-handed, a primary and a secondary weapon. So there could be quite a big list here of weapons depending on your character, and it takes a few seconds to pick through these and to find the way to hit. And then when you do hit, then you realize you can do damage. Then you have to go select the same line item that you used previously and choose that damage to roll. A quick way to streamline and handle your weapons in combat is using the mini menu. The mini menu is under weapons in the left-hand side. It's a little gold box that says mini, and it pops up this little box here that should list all your weapons. And the only reason this one is blank is because if you look at your line items where your weapons are, on the left side there's little symbols, and they'll say either carried, or they'll say equipped, or they'll say not carried. So as you can see, if you carry them, you're not using them in combat. That means they're probably sheathed or stowed away somewhere. So if you do change that to equipped, they actually pop up in the weapons combat submenu. So I'm going to add the dagger, and then I'm going to add the thrown version of that dagger. And as you can see, I have an ammo of 1 because I only have 1 dagger on me. Then I'm going to go ahead and add the Morning Star, and I'm going to add Cure Light Wounds. So by default, the window's kind of small, and sometimes you can't see the entire field, the description of the weapon. So you can actually drag this a little bit wider so you can see the whole thing. So now, instead of referring to the character sheet for your weapons in combat, you can use this mini menu instead. That way you're not looking through all this raw amount of data on this combat tab, or several tabs because you're trying to remember where all this stuff is. Now it's all localized on one little tiny menu. And as you can see graphically, it's much cleaner and more straightforward. As you can tell now, it's quite obvious where to roll to hit, because the to hit fields are gold squares. And you know that you can double click on that gold square to perform an attack. But unfortunately, still there is no graphical picture or image for the damage fields. So you just need to know that you have to roll that. But it's still much cleaner than the actual combat tab on your character sheet. On your main tab, you have another mini menu right underneath hit points on health. So if we open that up, now you have another sub menu that you can use to keep track of your health, your hit points, and your wounds, and your armor class. So you don't have to go hunting for this information on your character sheet and the right field to type in your wounds or get cured. You can just use this little sub menu for the same thing. And then one last thing is the spells tab. The spells tab has another mini menu. And this mini menu only lists the spells you actually have memorized or prayed for. So if I was to cast Detect Traps right now, in this mini menu, you'd left click on that little checkbox on the left side, and the spell will disappear because you casted the spell. So I'll click it right now. As you can see from the spell list here, it's no longer available. And if you look in the chat field, it shows that you did cast that spell. Also in the spells mini menu on the right side is these little brown dots that will actually open up the description of the spell itself. So you don't have to go hunt and looking for that as well. If you go look at your character sheet spells tab, your spells are still there. You have 3 modes: combat mode, standard mode, and preparation mode. Preparation mode will show all the spells that you know, and you can memorize them after a night's rest. And then when you memorize them, they'll be added back to the submenu of the spells tab over here. And then when you memorize the spells again in the morning, they'll be added back to the spells mini menu. Okay, as you can see in preparation mode, I memorize the spells for the morning so I can go adventuring for the day, and now they're listed in the spells mini menu. So to recap, you have 3 mini menus to streamline your role playing while playing the game in Fantasy Grounds. You'll have your weapons mini menu, your hit points and armor class mini menu, and your spells mini menu, and as well as the initiative role that you could tie to one of your hotkeys down below. And with those 4 things, it'll make role-playing in Fantasy Grounds much more enjoyable. I hope this was a benefit to you. If you have any comments, please list it below in the chat. And also, if you have any more requests, go ahead and put that down below, and I'll see if I can't create those for you as well.